everybody. Welcome to the DM Disruption. Myself here, Dawn Brolin, joined by the one and only Eric from Corpay One. Yes, Eric. Eric has been instrumental in helping all of us practitioners learn more about the technologies we need to use. And, I've really enjoyed working with Corpay One, primarily because Eric is there, but also because I love the solution. And I think it's really solving for a lot of issues within my client base. And as we talk about that, issues related to what's happening with our clients, the conversations I didn't used to have with clients, the conversations I didn't used to have because I didn't think they'd pay me for it. So we've embraced, I hug Ron Baker. I hug Ron Baker with his book about subscription pricing, and I've just renamed it to relationship pricing. And I find that the conversations I've had over the last 9-10 months since we've started this journey of relationship pricing, we've started to get into the conversation of technology. And how does technology fit in there? The tools we need, all that kind of stuff as we work into this whole, I don't want to call it, maybe a new model to a lot of us. Some people may have been doing this for a long time. It's different than value pricing. It's now a different kind of conversation. But Eric, you went and had a conversation or watched a webinar with Liz Scott, how do you not love Liz? Yeah. I think it's just loveliz.com is what it should be. But she talked about application advisory, app advisory, and where that is what a great component and piece of what your subscription pricing can look like. Talk to us a little bit about what you heard from Liz.
Yeah, no, it was a great webinar on apps advisory as a service, right?
Yeah.
So, hey, even if it's not something where you're necessarily managing all the clients' apps or these different services, you can at least recommend these different apps to clients and then help them to maintain or implement these different services that can bring additional revenue to your firm, but also make everyone's life easier. So she did a really good job of breaking that down, both from the accountant side of things, but also the client side, and why that would be beneficial to both, and how you can make that work from a pricing perspective that would be sort of a win-win, right, from the accounting side of things, but also providing a relatively low cost to your clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, and I feel like there's a couple different lanes you can be in with that. You could be someone who's like, for me, where I'm finding the technology that I know works. The clients, they're just as much fire hosed as we are. We always say that, like, we go to a conference, it's like a fire hose. You're like, oh my goodness, there's so much. And here comes a new bright and shiny penny. Should I run towards that penny? And really, at the end of the day, having to do a really good job of vetting the technology is very important. Yep. So the way I've looked at it is that I already have found the technology for the clients. Now I need to implement it with them. Now, historically, I've just done that naturally as part of a conversation that maybe I had once or twice a year with a client, where it's not like I'm involved really in their day-to-day. We're getting their bank statements, their credit card statements, or we're linked up through QBO and all of that stuff, but we don't know, how are those payments being made? What is the process behind the payments, that either checks, they're still writing checks, or whatever the case may be. I had a client the other day was in here, he's in an IRS audit, and he said, well, the bookkeeper that was here before told us we should only pay with a check, that we should not be paying our vendors with a credit card. Yeah. I'm like, really would like to get inside of that brain, because if the vendor is willing to accept a payment by credit card, you can get cash back like Corpay One does, or miles, or whatever it is that business owner's goal is, right? You're sitting there going, I've never heard of that in my life. So because we're having more conversations because of relationship pricing, we've had to reconsider and rethink pricing of applications. Now, the pricing of applications, you could do wholesale, you sell through wholesale. Like a lot of people do that with QBO. They sell through wholesale, they charge the client, and they pay the bill to Intuit. I haven't adopted that process within my firm at this point. I just have the client, we sign them up, and they handle, they pay direct. We have a third party that we use, but we have a vendor that we preferred vendor we use, but I didn't want to get wrapped up in the QBO side of it. But there's other applications that I utilize and implement for them, Corpay One being one of them, that, we set up the system. We help them with the approval process. We go through with signing up the users. We apply for the Corpay One card for MasterCard for them. We're doing all of these things, and historically been doing that for free.
Yep.
Because do you think my client wants to pay me for that? Probably not. Even though they don't want to do it, they still don't want to pay for it. So how can I implement the right solution? Like, let's just, we're using Corpay One because you're here. Corpay One as a great example for accounts payable to minimize the risk of fraud when it comes to accounts payable and credit card process, being able to accept payments and all this, or be able to, pay for bills and make sure we have our eyes on all that stuff. I need to get paid for that. So rather than say, hey, I'm going to charge you by the hour to implement your Corpay One account, this is part of the deal. This is part of your monthly subscription that you're paying me for me to implement these tools and technologies. And I'm recouping my time by getting paid off of a subscription pricing and app advisory. Liz put it perfectly.
No, absolutely. And the reality is it's never a one-time thing, right? Like as great as Corpay One is or any other software out there, we're not perfect. There's always going to be something that comes up, whether it be intentional or unintentional, that they'll need some advice from, right? And you guys are always going to be there to sort of be that first line of defense when it comes to supporting them with these different apps there, right? So yeah, you definitely have to sort of bake that in and cover for that, because it's definitely not just like a one-time implementation that you'd be doing with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we think about pricing. Let's talk a little bit about pricing. So I like to use the example of Candy Crush because I'm a big Candy Crush player. I've been really into Uno more recently than Candy Crush, but just the same, you download the app on your phone and, you start playing it, or Words with Friends. I love Words with Friends as well. And then like you finish your word and then all of a sudden you got to sit and wait through a commercial or an ad.
Yep.
And nothing makes me crazier than when my brain's going with the letters I got left that I got to try to come up with this word because I'm like, I always have to win, that I have to wait for this ad to go through. Mm-hmm. It's a great example of I'm going to go in there and I'm going to hit no ads and I'm going to pay $6 a month so that I don't have to watch ads because I just want to play the game because I'm annoyed. Mm-hmm. Or I'm in Candy Crush and I may need some tools associated with my success. And so I'll buy whatever it is I need to move to the next level. So if we think about application, so that's on the personal side, right? And it's goofy, it's funny, it is what it is. But when it comes to the business side, think about applications that are free. Free applications might equal a couple of different disadvantages, such as security.
Yep.
It's a free app. Okay. Yeah. Because maybe they're making money in other, what's that?
What's the catch?
Where is it? When does the hammer fall? When's the hammer falling? But then you're thinking about security, certainly number one. Number two, development, enhancements to the application. So I talk about this all the time with my starting lineup. They're not in my starting lineup unless they're continuing to develop the product, continuing to listen to feedback, make changes accordingly as necessary, knowing that that has a huge cost to the development company, to whoever the app owner is. Mm-hmm. And so we call that's business. I think we want everyone to be successful in business and everyone to make money. I don't understand the mentality of what I would consider almost not, I don't want to call them handouts, but I'm skeptical about that. That's when I have to do my due diligence. And as we've gone and as we've started to understand, you guys, Corpay One really invests in feedback, paying for a service. Is it worth using? Yeah. Because think about, this is a great example, Eric. Webinars. Mm-hmm. Webinars that are free. Get to go to a webinar for free. 1,000 people sign up. If 400 show up, you're happy. Yep. If 1,000 people pay for the webinar, you know how many people are going to sign up? Probably, or are going to show up? Probably 900. Yep. those are facts, people. That's not my opinion. Those are facts,
Mhm.
right? So thinking about that, and so, you know, what are you thinking of as far as like that pricing model? Like pricing models, I think are important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So with Corpay, obviously traditionally we have been majority of a free platform, right? With a few sort of optional payment fees that you can elect to use. But as you mentioned, you know, in business, just like any business, we have to generate revenue to sustain, but ultimately to continue to improve the product and to compete to make Corpay One the premier sort of accounts payable solution there. So with us, we're now looking to move to more of a sort of not a fixed pricing model, but more of a pay as you go pricing model for our accountants and bookkeepers that'll offer essentially a wholesale pricing compared to our direct side of the business that will allow you to either A, take on that cost to your firm if you choose to do so, which you can either eat the cost or sort of upsell that to your clients if you would like, or B, you can just sort of pass the cost directly on to your clients as well. But yeah, we are looking to move to changing that structure to be able to continue to develop the product, continue to serve our clients, and really be able to serve the right clients and the right accountants and bookkeepers. Because like you mentioned before, um, you know, you start to see that the people who really are good fits and value the product are the people that you want, right? And those are the people who you want their feedback, the people who you want to serve, and we want to be able to continue to do that with our services here.
Yeah, and so and I love what Liz had said about app advisory, and I think that, you know, clients understand that if you're giving them great service, they're very much willing to pay.
Oh
I
yeah.
believe that sometimes we get wrapped up in and if you think about the biggest, probably the biggest topic when it comes to firm management, firm development, the toughest conversation, the toughest thing to figure out is pricing.
Mhm.
People are always trying to figure out how do I do this, right?
Mhm.
And so being able to add an option for app advisory or tech advisory or however you want to position that conversation is a legitimate charge to not just you know, business advisory, which is important, business advisory like entity structures and um buy sell agreements and, you know, all those types of things that we need to be doing. Technology really is its own category.
Yeah.
It's its own category in that there's more to it than just, hey, we need to move you to an S corporation at this point, which is the big conversation. We're going to move you from a Schedule C to an S corporation, going to save you self-employment tax. Now we have to implement reasonable compensation analysis, those types of things, which are, I'm going to call it heavy in a compliance related matter,
Yep.
where technology and technology advisory, app advisory is really critical when it comes to security and minimizing risk of fraud. Those are really your two conversations. I think those are so important, and we're just scratching the scratch of the tax advisory and business advisory conversation. So it's like you have
Yep.
three different things that you're looking at: tax
Yeah.
advisory, business advisory, and tech advisory.
No, absolutely. And I think another good example is just, you know, I even think about taxes alone. Like I remember when I first started working, probably like a lot of people, and I heard about taxes and I go to TurboTax, right? Oh, you can do it for free. It's just
Right.
as easy. Don't need anyone, et cetera. So I go to TurboTax and I do it. And I think I ended up like owing $1,000 or something like that year. And I'm like, wait, this isn't how taxes is supposed to work.
Yep.
And you know, after doing that for a couple of years, and I'm talking to other people, and they're telling me how they're getting these refunds and things like that. I'm like, okay, well, what am I missing? They say, hey, well, you need to go to my tax guy, right? He actually is able to get me a refund. He knows about this credit. He knows how to do this, et cetera, et cetera. But it's going to cost you $400, right?
Yep.
And at first, I'm like, I don't know about that, right? I can do this for free.
Sure.
Uh, and I end up going to this new tax guy. I pay, I think it was 475, and that year I got like $3,000 back
Right.
because I didn't have to sort of go through it by myself. He knew about the different pitfalls. He knew about the different things that we can do, et cetera. And I think it's the same thing with these apps, right? Hey, it's not to say that, hey, you can't sign up for Corpay One by yourself and do it, or you can't sign up for an app and sort of do it yourself, but there will be pitfalls, there will be questions, there will be all these different things that will come up, that will be much easier if they had someone like you guiding them from the very beginning and say, hey, no, set it up this way, this is going to happen, do it this way. And I think from a time and efficiency perspective, that is very valuable to a business owner.
Yeah, I just like blows me away that, I mean, what accounting has come to. What does accounting come to what is happening with accounting? Because really the transactional side of accounting is now managed by technology. That's something that's going to continue to improve as we move forward. And as an accounting professional, positioning your firm to know how to monitor data, analyze data, and that kind of thing. It's now managing the data and analyzing it as opposed to actually hitting the keyboard to do it, right? And so that's changed a lot of what we're responsible for. Compliance right now, we're still a big part of compliance, but as Eric Green will tell you, the future of tax preparation is going to change. It is going to change. So you can't eliminate the human mind from anything. The human relationship you can't eliminate. Strategies that maybe AI can't handle, right? So how are you going to help? And I'll tell you what, as far as technology goes, the implementation of a new application is time consuming. Why wouldn't your client be willing to pay for you to implement something for them that's going to make their administrative life easier and the security of their money, their cash flow? They're going to be willing to pay for it. But if you can position yourself to be that expert in technology, which so many of us are, implementing a new piece of your relationship pricing called tech advisory, app advisory is a home run. If you're not a tax person, who cares? Long gone are the stigmatisms of bookkeepers versus CPAs versus EA. Like, that's not even a conversation. I know bookkeepers who are way smarter than CPAs that I know. They know technology better than anybody because they need it in order to do that work, right? And so the time is now to take advantage of this opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to implement, and to be careful about the technology you're selecting, because those that aren't developing, those that are, okay, and I really truly believe those that have been around, like Corpay One has been around to watch flying shiny objects by you. You've got to buyer beware. You got to make sure they're reputable. You got to make sure that you've done your due diligence when it comes to that, that's critical to me when I'm selecting a new technology or changing from one technology to the other. And there's reasons why you want to switch. I don't necessarily think pricing is one of them. That's not necessarily like at the top of my list. Security always is at the top of my list.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hear that all the time. Honestly, even times where, I may be speaking with a prospective customer who maybe doesn't want to come to Corpay One initially, and it's not because we're not a great product. They recognize, hey, we may be cheaper, et cetera, but they understand that what they're doing or what they're using right now is working, and they value that. Even though we may be cheaper, they're not 100% about Corpay One just yet, and I understand that, right?
Sure.
So I see it on both sides as, clients definitely will pay for the things that they see value in, and it's just up to us and you guys as advisors to make them see the value in these tools and really the efficiencies that we can provide to them in terms of, again, helping them navigate, helping them set up and implement all these things that would usually take up a lot of time and maybe even cost money depending on what type of mistakes are made.
Yeah, and in saying that, which I love this conversation because I find that clients are just as, I would say, as hair on fire as we are, right? So moving to relationship pricing, trust me, your hair will be less on fire. I can promise you, because my hair is less on fire. But think about your clients and the value of the time that they could get back by implementing a system, or even just the relief off their shoulders that, okay, I've implemented a system that I feel comfortable that we are minimizing the risk of fraud, or this is now going to save me 4 or 5 hours a week of time. Those types of solutions that you can implement, and they're like, wow, I will never go back because of the way I used to do it was so painful. And
Absolutely.
they go through that on a daily basis too, Eric, not just us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And it's up to, I think I try to do a good job of educating them on that, right? Because a lot of times I think a lot of business owners in particular don't know how to sort of calculate the time that is being spent and how much that is worth. And
right,
sometimes it's up to us to sort of educate them and say, hey, how many hours are you spending on this? How many hours are you spending on this? Now, if you took those same 6, 8 hours a week and put that into the business or sales, whatever, how much more money would we make? Right.
right,
And that equal or more than what we're proposing that this software is going to cost.
right.
Right. And if you can sort of make that case, I think more times than not, the client I've seen will understand and see the value in that software.
Yeah, it's what you just said kind of struck a little chord in my brain about asking them what are the different things that they're doing. So what's interesting about a reasonable comp analysis,
Mhm.
that's so it's so relative. A reasonable comp analysis, you sit with them and you say, okay, how much time do you spend calling clients every week? How much time do you spend chasing AR? How much time do you spend doing accounts payable? How much time do you spend, how much time are you actually doing the work you love?
Yep.
And we go through every part of what they do as a job. That's what reasonable comp analysis is, period.
Yep.
So even if you're not doing technically a reasonable comp analysis with your clients, you can do you I actually think regardless of their entity structure, it's fun to do that.
Mhm.
Why? Because it allows you to understand what are they doing in their business, how much time are they spending, so you can be like, whoa, you're spending 4 hours a week doing paying bills? What do you mean? Why are we doing that? And having those conversations, that's the beauty about relationship pricing, is you're having more conversations with your clients to really understand what their pain points are, really understand the exposure that they have to fraud,
Yep.
time stealing for employees,
Yep.
automobile driving business vehicles for personal use, wear and tear,
Mhm.
gas, like, we're not trying to say that employees are out there stealing. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is, and I believe in trust but verify. Some people say, nope, you need to trust people. Well, you know what? When you own a business, that's a whole different ball game. I can trust
Yep.
people in my personal life till they screw up, but I'm not trusting people with my business and wait for them to screw up. You need to be protected. And that's
Yep.
what we're here for.
Yep.
I think that's got to be at top of mind.
Absolutely. Yeah, you definitely have to, because like you said, those we talked about it, I think on the last episode, like some of these mistakes can be like really career altering for these business owners or for their businesses themselves. So it's definitely something that you have to be proactive with. And like you said, as long as we do a good job of sort of educating the clients on the value of this, I think it'll sort of bode well for both of us.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I said, just to kind of recap, we've talked about moving to subscription pricing, thinking about app advisory, tech advisory, whatever you want to call it, thinking about the three buckets: tax advisory, business advisory, and tech advisory, app advisory. Thank you, Liz Scott, for bringing that to the forefront of our minds, right, Eric?
Absolutely. Yeah,
That was a
great.
nugget, man. That was
Great.
key. And that again, that's the beauty of someone like Liz who is out there sharing. And we'll put in the show notes a link to that episode. I'll have to get that from Liz. But the more we can be prepared with the tools in our toolkit to be successful for our clients, the better off we're going to be. And so understanding that the cost of that app, you get what you pay for, period. My father always taught me that you get what you pay for.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
And that just is what it is. So Eric, any last words you have here for us today?
No, I think just to wrap up, as we mentioned before, we are looking at sort of changing our pricing structure, but we're still looking to be very price conscious and competitive in the market, and still giving our accountants and advisors the opportunity to sort of take advantage of a wholesale rate that will allow you to even generate more revenue just from offering Corpay One as a service, right? So being able to do that with us, and maybe being able to implement a similar structure across other apps, I think would be great for our partners. And I'm excited to see where we can go, both with our partners, but ultimately with the product, with the new investments we'll be able to make here.
And I'll tell you, just my wrap up for this is this. Thank you, Corpay One, for understanding that. And hopefully people will listen and understand that it's not a, oh, now all of a sudden they're charging for the service. They said they weren't gonna. It's, you know what? This is too important to me and my clients to not implement, and too important for me to understand I can charge for it too. So hopefully Corpay One, you guys over there, Eric, are going to help motivate some people to move and shift their pricing structure, the way they look at technology, and the way they can understand that technology tools are there to help them with their practice, but also most importantly, to help their clients implement, get some of their time back. And believe me, people, I'm telling you, the clients will pay for it. It blew my mind. It's something that must be done in order for you to take your firm and your practice to the next level. So Corpay One, thank you for helping us understand that importance, because it really is. It's something we've got to be doing. So the DM disruption, thank you so much for listening. This has been an amazing episode with you, Eric, as it always is. But this conversation is so important to me because my life is different, because I shifted my mindset, and all I want is for other people to shift their mindset too. So Eric, Corpay One, thank you so much for being an awesome starting lineup member with Team Brolin. Let's go.
All right, Dawn, thank you as well. Looking forward to seeing you soon.
You bet you will. Conference season is coming. Thanks again. All right. Bye-bye.